Hi, I'm Dan McNeil. Coming up on today's Danny Mac podcast, former NFL head coach Jay Gruden joins me to talk about how the change in ownership in Washington has improved life for head coach Dan Quinn, who is the new headmaster in Washington. But what has that ownership change meant for everybody who's wearing Commanders helmets and hats these days? I want to let you know, if you like to wager on college and pro football, you should be aware of the same game parlays we offer at Bet Rivers. You can earn squares, and with those squares, you get bonus bets, profit boosts, and up to $10,000 jackpots. Play the same game parlay at Bet Rivers.
You're now watching the Danny Mac podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Potentially not the game everybody was hoping for if Jayden Daniels doesn't go Sunday for Washington. Let's talk about what the Commanders have done with a former Redskins head coach and a guy who keeps his eye on the NFL when he's not on the golf course working on his short game. And that is Jay Gruden with me today. Jay, thanks for the time. How you feeling, man?
I feel great, man. I'm excited for this game, as everybody is. These two quarterbacks are fun to watch, and I've been following the Commanders very closely now that they have a new owner, fresh breath of life instilled in that building, so it's fun to watch them.
Has there been an organization in the NFL that's needed more of that fresh breath of life you described than Washington has these last few years?
No, it's been much needed around here, and it's a lot of things that helped. The new GM helped. Adam Peters doing a great job. And you get a new coach with a lot of energy, new offensive coordinator, line coach, run game coach, defensive coordinator. But the most important thing is add the quarterback that can really spark this franchise for many, many years. And Jayden has been as advertised around here. He is an unbelievable player. Players love to play for him, and he makes everybody on the team better.
What has Cliff Kingsbury done for him?
A lot. I think he's been patient with the running game first and foremost. Obviously, we know Jayden's skill set is special, but he also has taken a lot of pressure off him by handing the ball off, and they have unique runs. Anthony Lynn, the run game coordinator, does an excellent job. They can pull people. They can run right at you. They can run outside. They can run the zone reads. They can run the quarterback keepers, the RPOs. They really keep a defense off balance with their ability to do so many different things in the run game. And then obviously that opens up the play pass for Jayden and Terry McLaurin and the rest of the group.
I've heard so many people suggest, hey, it's not fair to compare Caleb Williams to Jayden Daniels. Why isn't it? I mean, they were drafted first and second. I think it's silly to draw conclusions in 1 year or even in 2 years, but why wouldn't you compare the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's a highly scrutinized position. Both guys have a lot of upside, a lot of talent. Actually, probably Caleb walked into a better situation than Jayden. He had a good receiving core, offensive line coming back, maybe not quite as good, but a good tight end, a really good defense that can get the ball back for you. So with all that said, he was probably, as far as the first pick in the NFL draft, going into the best situation as long as I can think of. And then Jayden probably walked into a worse situation because the defense was not very good. And, the receiving core was a little bit, other than Terry McLaurin, was unsettled. The tight end position was unclear until they added Zach Ertz. And the offensive line struggled mightily last year. So, but I think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn did a great job addressing some of those issues, adding Zach Ertz and Tyler Biadasz as a center from Dallas and drafting another tight end to be a little bit more physical up front, getting Austin Eckler for a little juice out of the backfield. So I think both guys are in a very good situation right now and have the ability to succeed because of the players around them.
Dan Quinn was a candidate for the Bears job a few years ago when Matt Eberflus was given the opportunity. My understanding was the Bears flew him in coach to be their head coach. And this is an organization, Jay, that's worth almost $8 billion. And some of the Bears have fought. I don't know if you've had any experiences in the interview process with Chicago, but they have caused many qualified candidates to put up the Heisman mechanic on that position. It's not the job it once was, is it?
I don't know about all that. I know that Chicago's got a great fan base and a great history about their organization, and I think a lot of coaches would love the opportunity to coach up there now, especially now that they got a quarterback like Caleb. Now, back when they didn't have any quarterbacks, this may not be as appealing, but as a head coach, you always look at the situation. Okay, what city is it in? Chicago's a fun city, I guess. A little cold for me. Not as much golf being able to be played. But when I coached, I couldn't play golf anyway. But you're always looking at the team, and you're looking at the quarterback, and you're looking at the GM and the owner, how you can work well with those guys. And I don't know the situation with the owner or the GM, but now that they have Caleb, it's a pretty favorable franchise, I would think.
When you were with Washington, when you were the head coach, did you get as much golf in as you could, or has this addiction been more after your coaching career?
I played like 5 times in the summer, and then as soon as we started training camp, I put them in the garage and never saw them again. So yeah, I never got to play. But once I got fired by Jacksonville's offensive coordinator, I took it up pretty heavily. It's keeps my day going. It keeps my competitive juices going. You lose that competitive edge when you're coaching and you're working in the office all day, coming up with plans and signing players and watching draft prospects and free agents. And when you lose that, all of a sudden, you got to find something to fill that void. And golf, fortunately for me, I'm not great, but I'm not terrible. It's been filler for me.
I want to ask you about that mentality of putting the clubs away during the season and whether it's changed some in the NFL. And one of my favorite, Steve Spurrier. I loved Coach Spurrier, loved what he did at Florida, and I loved his approach in the NFL when he was asked about, why aren't you looking at film at 4:00 in the morning? And I guess Jim Haslett had criticized him. And he said, well, I hear Haslett gets up at 4:00 in the morning. How's that working for the Saints? and I thought that was perfect, Steve Spurrier. Has it changed a little bit? I mean, can a coach have a life to just stay fresh outside of football and still be a productive head man?
No, you can't. There's too many things going on your football team and franchise with all the player issues. You're coming up with game plans and practice schedules and injuries that take place. You got to get new guys ready. You got to look at other guys. It's a long season. Now, after the season's over and you're preparing for the draft and you're doing mini camp and training camp or OTAs and stuff, you can have some time in the afternoon. That's the best time probably. But during the season, if you're playing golf, maybe if you have a bye week, 2 days in the bye week, you can play. But other than that, you can't play.
Mm-hmm. What's the strength of your golf game? You're a big guy, right? 6'2", 2.25. You hit it a long way.
I'm 57 years old, so I hit it about 255, right around there. My strength is I don't really have any weaknesses, but my weakness is I don't have any strengths. You know what I mean? I'm not a very good putter. I'm going to shoot between 76 and 82 every time. I can't get lower than that because I don't putt good enough. I could do everything okay, but nothing great.
Okay. Well, as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. I want to get back to Washington and what we started this conversation with about the Commanders needing new ownership. And I'm not familiar with all of the particulars. Ron Rivera is a buddy, and he said the stadium deal there was about as bad as it gets in the NFL. And I know head coaches have a roster to worry about and installing your offense and all those things. But is that something that is part of the issue with Washington right now, too, is they don't have any home field advantage from what I understand?
I think it's gaining steam right now. Now that Jayden and they're playing well, I think you'll see more of a home field advantage for sure. Now, when I was coaching and we went to the playoffs my second year, we lost to Green Bay in the playoffs. It was an unbelievable sight when it was 90%, 80% Redskin fans. That was an awesome sight. But as we started to flounder a little bit, it was 50-50, 60-40 the other team. Hell, we had to go on a silent count. We played the Vikings one time because the Viking fans were so loud. So, yeah, but I think it's the more you win and you get a quarterback, you get a product out there that people can come support and they're happy about, it'll work out more for the Commanders. But I just didn't like the location. Our training facilities in Ashburn, the stadium's way down there. Every home game felt like a road game for me. If we had a home game at night, I wouldn't get home till 2 a.m. It screwed me up for, 4 or 5 days. So there was no proximity to it. It just felt like everything was a road game down there. And I just never felt like it was our stadium except for probably a couple the playoff game and a couple other games when we were winning.
That's how the Bears described their situation when they played temporarily at the University of Illinois for 1 year when Soldier Field was under reconstruction. And we've got problems with that in Chicago again right now that just don't go away. But as far as Caleb Williams is concerned, Jay, and how he has progressed, what have you liked throughout his first 6 weeks of development?
I think he is developing, and that's what it is all about for these young quarterbacks. Obviously, he has a skill set that makes him a starting quarterback in the National Football League with his arm talent and his escapability, his athleticism. He just needs to calm down a little bit. I think the first couple games might be trying to do too much. And Shane Waldron is starting to get to know him a little bit more, the offensive coordinator, and how to utilize his talents. And it's just a matter of getting comfortable in the offense, calling the same play over and over again, getting the formation, the protection, the route concepts down, and more comfort level with it. You can see him being more comfortable. And Shane's doing a good job of also manufacturing some easy completions for him, some screens, the back screens, the tight end screen to Clement last week against Jacksonville, where everybody checked and he just went down the middle of the field for an easy touchdown. So Shane is doing a good job getting him easy completions. Caleb's doing a much better job of calming down and letting the plays develop and hit his progressions, but also having the ability to scramble and do those unscripted plays with a lot of success.
The running game has helped him out enormously too, and it's kind of interesting that in this era where the CBA precludes contact during practice and the coaches don't want to play anybody in August, and a lot of times you spend September finding out who you are. Is that something we just have to accept as a way of life in the NFL, that coaches are not going to run the risk of getting their best players hurt, and August will be just essentially a fitness program, and then you start unveiling your offense throughout the course of September?
It's one of the toughest things I had to deal with as a coach. How physical did you want to be in practice? You preach physicality, but if you don't practice physicality, how can you be physical? Mm-hmm. You see you're physical in practice, you lose your starting left tackle, Trent Williams, for 6 weeks. Then you're like ready to jump off a bridge because the backup to Trent Williams is a free agent from West Texas State. You know what I mean? So you just have to balance the fact. You have to get guys ready. You have to see them develop. You know, the younger guys, the free agents, the first, second year guys, those guys are the ones that got to really hit in practice, and you got to find out who they are, what they're made of. Some of the veteran guys, you don't want to put them in harm's way. Some of your star players, the guys that are making all the money, you want to try to protect them. They got to play on Sundays. Unfortunately for me, all my star players were standing next to me on the sideline, and we were playing all the backups. But it is a fine line, and I don't really know the answer to it because old school, you know, you're doing 2 days, you're doing 9 on 7, you're banging, it didn't seem to matter. But nowadays, you know, there's so many more injuries that happen with the pulled hammies and the foot and the toe and the contusions, the knee, the scopes, the concussions. I mean, it is a tough game, and you got to try to get your best players out there on Sunday. You look at the Rams and what they do in a preseason; they don't play anybody, you know. And some other teams plays their guys, so it's just the coach's preference, and hopefully your players don't get hurt.
Who's coming out of the NFC North? Because right now
it's a great division.
Like,
I predicted before the season on a show. I said the NFC North was the best division. Everybody looked at me and laughed. But I like Detroit. Obviously, they lose Hutchinson, their best pass rusher. That'll hurt them. But their offense, you know, if they stay healthy, we talk about health all the time, they're pretty much unstoppable because they can hit you so many different ways with the two backs, and Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams is rolling. Obviously, Laporte is a good player, and Jared Goff is playing at a level the last 3 games that I don't think anybody's seen for 3 weeks span. So I love Minnesota. Their team football team is very good. Offense, defense, they're solid. Green Bay, obviously, Jordan Love is hit or miss sometimes, but they're explosive and their defense is playing well. And then you look at Chicago, the 3-headed monster at wideout, and Caleb's starting to find his way. And defensively, they're playing pretty damn good. They, you know, that's the one thing I've always liked and respected about Matt Eberflus is his ability to coach defense. They're always sound. They're good tacklers. They pursue the football, and they're where they're supposed to be. So it's up in the air. But if I had to pick right now, the people's choice is probably Detroit, and I kind of agree.
The Bears do tackle well, and they've taken the ball away. That's been a calling card for them this year, too. And their secondary's a little bit thinned out right now, Jay, but they've got depth there. And, man, you talk about a position where you'd love to have a little bit of depth. Right now it's the secondary, and they've got that going for them. Are they good enough to steal a wild card position with that division being as stacked as it is?
I think so, because if you look at the NFC West, they got, I think, one team over 500, and that's Seattle, and they all play each other. And you look at the NFC South, Tampa lost a couple guys in Atlanta. They're one game over 500. So you're looking at one team in those divisions to go to the playoffs, in my opinion. The NFC East, you know, you're looking at maybe either the Commanders or Philadelphia, maybe both of them. And then you look at the South or the North, and I think you're going to get 3, maybe 4 teams out of there. It's going to be interesting. I know they're all going to play each other, knock each other off, but the way they play football in the NFC North right now, I wouldn't be surprised if at least 3 teams come out. Chicago certainly could be one of them.
Organizationally, It's my contention. This is where Green Bay has had the stranglehold on the division, dating back to Mike Holmgren and Ron Wolf when they were running it collectively with the Brett Favre trade in '92. People in Chicago, Jay, seem to think, well, it's just the succession of quarterbacks. Well, how do you get Reggie White? How do you get black guys to go play in an all-white city when free agency starts in '93? Organizationally, Green Bay is head and shoulders above the rest of the league, and the Bears and the rest of the division just haven't caught up. They don't catch Green Bay every year. They don't win it every year, but that is an organization that has distanced himself, in my opinion.
They have, and they've been very fortunate at the quarterback position. When you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, you're pretty good at that spot. So fortunately, they've had that position on lockdown, and they haven't had the changes that every other team has had in that division. But you're right. There's something to be said about making those decisions, taking those quarterbacks, and supporting them with other good players on the defensive line, offensive line, having good defenses, having a solid organization, making good decisions year in and year out. It's not easy to do coming from an organization I was at where we failed. I lasted 5.5 years though, but there's something to be said about the consistency that the Green Bay Packers have had over the years. Very similar to, not similar, obviously New England's a little bit better, more Super Bowls, but Green Bay seems like they're always in the conversation at the end of the year.
Jay, you're an opinionated guy. My perception of you when you were coaching was you had a real good edginess about you, the kind of coach that you like to cover when you're talking about sports radio or writing columns for the newspaper. Why not broadcasting for you afterward? Are you too honest? Why did you not go on and find stardom in a booth somewhere?
My phone never rang. I don't know what to say. I do a station called Clean Pocket on YouTube with Colt McCoy and AQ Shipley and Justin Pugh. We have some fun with that. Just pays the bills for my greens fees, and it's fun to do. But as far as doing games, I would love to try it eventually if I could, but nobody's asked.
The world is more interesting with Gruden's in it. And
I
feel the same way about your brother, John. I don't know.
The Gruden name used to be hot, but kind of fizzled a little bit. My brother's making a major comeback. He's doing some great things on his little YouTube stuff, and hopefully he gets another chance because I know he wants to get back in a big way, and he deserves to. Me, on the other hand, I'm kind of happy playing golf, and if I could do some games here or there, talk football any way I can. I still love the game, love talking about it, but the grind of the 18-hour days, I don't know if I'm up for that much more.
All right. All right. Swing hard. It always works for me, especially that first tee before you're loose. Just swing as hard as you can, Coach.
I do. Only if I get 2 off the first tee do I swing hard on the first one.
Jay, thank you for the visit. Jay Gruden, former head coach of the Washington Commanders before they were the Commanders. Even before they were the Washington football team, Randy Merkin takes care of getting all of the guests for me here on the Danny Mac podcast, where we are executively produced by Sam Michael. Adam Delavitt runs the show for the Bet Rivers Podcast Network, and we are assisted, as always, by Troy Mocker and Alex Pastor in research, development, and social media. I'm Dan McNeil. Enjoy Week 7. Oh, actually, it's Week 8. Yeah, just because the Bears didn't play doesn't mean the league stopped last week. Week 8, be here after the game for you on the Danny Mac Podcast.